That's all right.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Cool.
Okay, did you get a picture of both of us on the screen?
I did.
Yeah, cool. I hide my self view because I just find it so distracting.
Yeah, I do as well.
I find myself talking at myself, which is weird. So that's not how I would normally hold a conversation. So
yes, I'm going to now do that. There we go. I can just see you. It's much better, isn't it? It's
it's so much more relaxing.
Yeah,
you feel less like you're on stage performing.
Yeah,
that's how I always feel when I can see myself, that you just start to focus on how you're holding yourself on camera and things.
Exactly.
Awesome. Okay, so well, this is fun. I've been sort of practicing my intro for this because thinking, how do I even start a podcast? This is crazy. Like, it just came to me, I guess, a few weeks back. So actually, when I put the post out on LinkedIn to say, you know, I'm interested in talking to people who have left the corporate world or going out there on their own, and it was really, to start with, just thinking, well, this is what I do as my coaching. I talk to people that are looking to leave the corporate world or do something completely different. They're trying to find some inspiration, trying to find, well, how do I do this? So I was thinking, well, it would be really handy if I spoke to more people and that have actually managed to do it successfully and are, you know, it could tell me, you know, what their sort of secret to success was, or what the challenges were they faced and how they overcame them. And I thought, what am I going to do with all this information? How am I going to share it? And I thought, well, I mean, why be the person trying to, you know, translate all these stories? Instead, let's just talk to people and record it and have that opportunity for other people to listen as well. So I sort of thought, that's just, the thought of doing a podcast is terrifying. You know, being a voice out there. I don't like listening back to myself, despite all the years in virtual classroom training and, you know, facilitating, and still listening back to yourself. In fact, it was when I did my dissertation a couple of years ago, all on Google, and had to listen back and transcribe all my interviews, like 20 odd of them. I thought, I never want to hear myself say these few words ever again. Like, oh, that's interesting. And like in my head, that's all I could hear after like a week was me saying, oh, that's really interesting. I was like, that's great. People are really interesting, but I don't need to keep hearing myself say this same phrase.
Totally.
Anyway.
Totally. Yeah. Now, one of the things I've been doing with my business is recording training videos. Cool. That then are accessible to my clients so that they can be learning away from me. And it was nerve-wracking, I have to say, to begin with, just because I'd never done it before. And so you're looking at yourself constantly. I remember the first couple that I recorded were just shockingly bad. I've got better, but it's definitely quite uncomfortable, I have to say, and just having to watch it, because then you're not just listening to yourself, I'm also like looking at myself and just having to get past you look fine, you sound fine, you come across confident, it's totally okay, you know your stuff, you know, it's all of this sort of positive self-talk that you have to do just to kind of keep going. I think that's been one of my biggest learnings, actually, from everything with my new business, is I've never built a business before. I've never started a business before. And so pretty much, apart from all of the change management stuff that I do and the client work, which I've done for years, actually how you package that up and sell it, and how do you package it up and teach it, and all of that, it's all new. So every time every 3 or 4 months, I'm in a new phase of my business. So it's always just take that big deep breath and sort of step into it and just give it a go. But it's nerve-wracking.
And well done. So let's talk about you, because obviously I'm going down a similar route to you. I left my job to be a coach, and it's only recently that I've started, you know, okay, I'm going to put a business name around this now, and so calling it my Chequered Career, very much play on my own name. And so this podcast is going to be called My Chequered Career, and talking to women. So I am focusing my business on women, because I've found that women want more support and guidance and reassurance, and they really like to hear other people's stories, and not because they're then going to go out and copy exactly what that person's doing, but it's that reassurance, isn't it, that there are so many different ways to do this, and as women we can do this. And I think that's what I really want to get across to a lot of these women out there, is that, like you just said, it's really scary, we don't know what we're doing, but there is a way and we can make this work. And so talking to those people that are having a go, that's the important bit. I think it's that you have a go, keep having a go. If you don't get it right, you just keep having a go. You know, that's the thing. It's not just, oh, I did that, didn't work, and it stops. So really awesome to have you here as, you know, my first interviewee, and talking about your checkered career. So you've got experience working in the public and private sector, at the NHS, at PwC. You've sort of gone back and forth a little bit between them, and you've tried to, you would I think contracting, you said, as well. So you sort of stepped out of the salaried role into contracting, which is quite a big change as well. And now you've gone down the route of starting your own business, and just at the end of the pandemic as well, or I say the end, in the middle of the pandemic, wasn't it, last January? So yeah, exciting. Tell me more.
So it's funny actually, because when I was sort of thinking about my checkered career, I thought, God, would I call it a checkered career? Because I think what I've done is I've always loved business, and I've always loved how businesses run, and how can you be really efficient and effective and make sure that people are really enjoying what they do. That's something that's been really important to me always. And I think I've found that as I've gone through my career, I've focused more and more on change, and that being really exciting to me, as much in a business context, but also as an individual, because I've done a lot of work on myself. And I find how people tick and how do you make change happen really, really exciting. But I have kind of always flitted between an operational role and then sort of consultancy role. And I think I've always kind of left the consultancy world because I miss the roll up your sleeves and do it, which you get when you're in an operational role. But then I really enjoy the kind of consultancy, coaching, support, giving advice, working with businesses. So I have kind of done that backwards and forwards piece, and I think actually what I found is by setting up my own business I can combine the two. So that's it was never my intention. I never started out ever thinking I'm gonna set up my own business, and in fact I went into contracting because I wanted the freedom that came from kind of doing my own thing and having a period of time when I'd work and then a period of time when I wouldn't. But it was never, it was always just about me being me and just finding my own work and doing a project and then moving on. So it was quite a big step when I then, last year, sort of, because it's just been over a year, decided, I'm gonna actually set up my own business. But it does mean I'm kind of combining that operational role of I'm having to run a business, but also my business is consultancy. So I'm hopefully, fingers crossed, combined the two together. So hopefully it will work. We'll see.
Best of both worlds.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. So as part of my master's, we had this really interesting question around career, and I've always been sort of quite fascinated by the different perspectives people have on what is a career, and did they ever set out with that sort of career mind, or did you just start working and see where it took you? Because I quite like, you mentioned that through your work you found a passion for change management, so you didn't set out with, I want to be in change management, but it came to you as you were doing that work. So probably throwing up through too many questions at you at this point, but did you, when you I guess when you were younger, did you ever think, this is the career I want, and did that pan out, or has it just all gone completely different to what you expected?
It has all gone completely different to what I expected. I have to say, I didn't expect at the age of 44, which is what I am now, to be starting a new business, which in some ways feels, and I have to sort of tell myself this isn't the case, feels a little bit like I'm starting again. So if I think back to, how did I define career and what did it mean to me when I started out in work? So I started work at 22 after I'd been to university, and career to me was you start a job and you work your way up the corporate ladder. And I wanted to become, the CEO, board director type scenario. And that's what career meant to me. And that's what I started doing. I was working my way up through PwC, got myself on the fast track program to partner. And so on one hand, it's sort of all going really well. But actually, I kind of looked around and thought, I'm not sure I aspire to be a partner in PwC. Actually, if I look around, it didn't, the partners that were around me in my business unit, I didn't feel inspired by them. So I think what I'm trying, or what I redefine career as now, is finding something, turning my passion and what I'm good at into something I get paid to do. And I suppose when I started work, it was still at that sort of the end of a career, like a job for life. So like if I look at my dad, I think, and this is where it came from, and I think the generation after us now is in a completely different environment, is my dad went to work for a business and stayed there for 40 years. And I think we're the generation which actually that changed for a whole host of reasons, and not all just because of we as individuals wanted something different. Business changed, and so that didn't exist. So I think what career means now is very different generally across kind of society.
Yeah, I agree. So how did you feel when you were when you realized that actually this isn't where I want to go? So you took a look around at the partners at PwC and just thought, actually, do you know what, I don't think this is right for me. How did you feel then, and how did you start to think about what to do next?
So it felt, I suppose for a long time, I knew that it wasn't the right place, but I actually didn't know what I wanted to do next. So there was quite a long time, and I'm talking good couple of years, where I was still working at PwC, knowing that that's not where I wanted to be long term, but not knowing what to do next. So it wasn't altogether great, I suppose, because it's not fulfilling, is it? I enjoyed, and the problem, so it wasn't that it was all awful. I absolutely loved the client work and all of the projects I did, and that was I really, really enjoyed it. It was knowing that I wanted to progress as a leader, that when I would come back into the office and spend time kind of with PwC corporate, if you like, I couldn't see that I was going to be able to progress as a leader, which is what I wanted. So I suppose for a long time, you become aware to something, don't you? So I was aware that it wasn't where I wanted to be. And so I suppose for a couple of years, I just would have different conversations. If there was a client, for example, that I really clicked with, I would explore whether or not there was kind of an option to possibly join their change program, because by that time I knew change and transformation was what I really loved. But it was when I had a project, I was the director of transformation, and it was sort of a semi-secondment to the client. There was a PwC team involved, but we also had client staff and contractors. And so I was leading this massive team that included contractors, and seeing what they were doing and the fact that they were able to pick and choose their projects and do the type of work that they love doing, that's when I kind of landed on, okay, my next step is contracting. And that's when I then made the change. But yeah, it was a couple of years in PwC before I got to that place of knowing what it was that I wanted to do next.
Yeah. And the job that you did contracting, was it very similar to what you were doing at PwC, but the change was that you were contracting and not in a permanent role?
It was, so actually it turned into, so there was an element of change involved. Interestingly, where I ended up going with the client, so they brought me in to help them implement change, but what became quickly apparent was that they didn't have a strategy and a vision, and where were they headed. And you can't implement change if you don't know where you're headed. So actually it then did turn into something a bit more strategic, where I was helping them around articulating their vision and their goals and getting clear on the strategy and going out into the business and driving change from the start point of what is it we're trying to achieve. And it was great because I initially signed with them just for a 6-month contract and ended up with them for 18 months. And it was a great first step. I think where it made my transition was easier, or where I de-risked it, I suppose, the move was by teeing that up before I left PwC.
Yeah. You have a few months to do that at PwC, don't you? You get a few months notice period to start planning your exit, or start planning your exit before then even. But you get a bit of time to think about it and put some blocks in place.
I'm conscious, because you're going to edit this, aren't you? So I'm conscious that was one of your questions. So edit that bit out, and then you can ask me the question. How did I do the transition?
No, it's absolutely fine. To be honest, I'm trying not to do this too kind of like question answer. So I'm really happy that things are, just coming into the conversation. I might edit it, I might not. It's all fun. But for me, that's what you're just talking about there. When we talk about career change and career transitions, it's looking for those small steps that are manageable. So you found your small step was going into contracting, doing something similar, but that was still a big change, because you're removing yourself from the salaried role, which is the hardest thing I think people find to leave. So going into contracting, which is a bit higher risk, guarantee of a job, they can get rid of you a day's notice kind of thing. But then what you found is that so much more came out of that role. So that was small change, which made you feel comfortable enough to take that step, actually became something bigger and better and sort of richer in the job that you were doing.
Yeah, I loved it. I think the hardest thing I found, though, in making sense, and you're right, it's funny because looking back now and comparing it to the fact I've now set up a business, it feels like a really small step. But at the time, it was huge. It was absolutely massive. I'd been at PwC for 13 years. And there was this little voice in my head at the time thinking, but I may not be successful in the outside world. I've been in PwC for so long, and I'm surrounded by all these amazing people. I mean, that's one thing you get right in the Big Four, is really smart, hardworking people. That it kind of slightly warps your reality of actually what's available in the working world and the skill sets of people out in the working world. And so that move, whilst it was safe because it was taking what I was used to, which is you do a project with defined kind of objectives and scope and goals, and I was taking a consultancy model and moving into the contracting world. So in that way it was very familiar, but my goodness, it was a really scary step. And I think the thing that I found the hardest was going from, in PwC, working in teams and leading teams of people all the time, and as a contractor going it alone and being very much on my own. And that took me probably the first 3 to 4 months to work out how to deal with that, That was really uncomfortable. And actually, though, that has, in terms of now setting up my business for myself, so what I did when I was contracting is I realized, hey, I need, I'm only one person here, and the client is expecting me to have all the answers and be able to steer them. But what I was missing was a team of people around me to bounce ideas off, which I've always loved. A team is really important to me. So actually what I realized I had to do was kind of dip back into the world of people that I used to work with and find those 2 or 3 people that were happy to still have that kind of sort of relationship with me, I suppose. And actually one person in particular is still that person today as I've set up my business. And I think that's really helped me in setting up my own business, to know that I have to have those 2 or 3 people that are my support network, my cheerleaders, the people that I go to sense check things, and to get other brains working on my ideas to make sure that I'm putting forward the best thing that I could possibly be developing.
Yeah, that's such an important thing to remember, is even though you are contracting and you're running your own business, you're not alone. It's just about finding those people. So which kind of brings me to one of the things that I like to really push as a highly important part of career management is your network, building and maintaining your network of people, business and personal. How have you managed that?
So first of all, I absolutely agree. Network is so important. So one of the things that I have invested in is a CEO peer group, which is called Vistage. And it's for small and medium-sized businesses. Because I was already a member, even though I'm a kind of a one-person business, I've been able to stay a member. Normally it's not, my business is far too small for this group, but as I say, because I joined when I was in the NHS, they've allowed me to stay on. But what you get in that is 14, 15 other chief executives, managing directors of small and medium-sized businesses, anything from sort of 3 million up to the biggest one in our group is 70 million. A peer group of people that we come together every month and we support each other in leading our businesses. And to be honest, if it wasn't for that group, I wouldn't have been brave enough to set up my own business. It's only because of being surrounded by these amazing and yet normal people who have successfully built or are running small and medium-sized businesses, that I was able to kind of, first of all, get the confidence that, hey, if they can do it, so can I. But also secondly, have this peer group of people who, when I'm facing a challenge or I'm not sure kind of a direction of travel, I can go and we talk about it. And that is just invaluable. Yeah, you absolutely have to have a network of people. So that is like my main group. And then, as I said, I've got, a couple, 2 or 3 other people that then are my absolute kind of go-to, it's the new phrase, go-to people that I have. And it's essential.
Yeah. So you've mentioned a couple of times that like going from PwC to contracting was terrifying, and then obviously having that the challenge of starting up a business and having that I guess bravery, like you say, to go and do it. So you've obviously had your network of CEOs. Was there anything else that really kind of helped give you that sort of, okay, I can do this?
It was, so I went from, after contracting, I took on a role as a board director in the NHS. So that was my first proper senior executive role. And that was in an organisation of like 730 million pounds, 10,000 people. And I suddenly found myself in this role. It's an amazing opportunity. And that was definitely, for me, that actually, if I reflect back on what have been the big career steps for me, that was definitely one of them, because what that gave me was very senior leadership experience running a big business. And actually what I realized is, hey, if I can do that, then I can run my own business. I think the realization post setting up my business is that there's a big difference between setting up running a business that's already established and then setting one up and growing it from nothing. So that's kind of been my post setting up business experience and reflection. But yeah, taking on that really senior role and running a really big business gave me that confidence that, hey, I actually do know what I'm talking about, and I can do this. It was going back to, again, that kind of flipping between consultancy and operational roles. The operational roles that I'd had before had been quite junior roles. So taking on this senior role, it was a real confidence booster. It was a real kind of confirming that, all of my 15 whatever years it had been by that point of work life had equipped me with the skills to lead and organize. So I think that was the other big thing that really helped me in terms of then embarking on setting up my own business.
Awesome. What have been the biggest challenges that you've faced starting up your own business? What could other people learn from your challenges?
My challenges, what have been my challenges? So I think there have been two. The biggest challenges I've had, one is embarking on something I haven't done before. I find some people thrive, right? Some people really love just going, hey, I've never done this before, let's just jump headlong in, right? I'm not one of those people. I feel it's really nerve-wracking when I do things for the first time, and that felt really scary. But I think something we were chatting about earlier was reading around and hearing other people's stories, that you learn from what they've done, and the fact that everyone starting a new business, so in my case the change was starting a new business, everyone goes into it scared and not sure what they're doing and just learning as they go. And so that gave me a kind of a sense of, okay, hang on, if other people have been able to do this, I can do it too. It's fine. So that kind of gave me confidence. The other thing then, I think a real challenge that I found was working on my own. So although, and I touched, I said I found this way of having a network and that support, and I have got that, but there's still a lot of hours every single day spent on my own, where actually I love working in teams. So that's been the other kind of real challenge that if I'm honest, I probably still haven't entirely kind of got to grips with that. So sometimes I've absolutely got it right, because during the week there's plenty of meetings. I'm now in a position, I've recognized one of my skills is not marketing, so I do have a marketing consultant that works with me. And I think that's been the other important thing, is realizing sometimes that you have to invest in order to be able to kind of get the results that you want. So I very early doors realized that, hey, if I really am serious about building a business, there's some investments I've got to make, and one of the investments was into marketing. And so the fact I've got that person means that I have got a little team. So I'm kind of trying to find ways of doing that. But I can equally have two days in a row where it's just me on my own, and I think still trying to make sure that I feel connected somehow is really important.
Yeah, I hear you. I feel the same. So my role at PwC was global, and I felt I spent a lot of time on my own, especially through the pandemic, trying to find connections, reasons to connect with people, to have those conversations, and then stepping away from that role thinking I just need to see people. and not being able to see people because of the pandemic, but then also finding that the coaching world has gone very virtual as well, which is fine. I can do that. But it's still, like you say, I don't have a team, and so there's no sort of people to just kind of banter with or create those, like, that teamwork. So yeah, I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with still, is finding that human connection. So creating your own little team, like say outsourcing things. I'm going to be looking at doing that as well over the next couple of months, because the skill set and the time and having someone as part of your team is a nice feeling. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that one either. I think it's interesting to hear that that is something that people I hear who are self-employed, contracting, working from home, there is that sort of element of, I guess, it's loneliness, isn't it? Workplace loneliness. So that's why I think networking is, again, it's a really important part, not just for the business growth, but also for your sanity, I guess. I recently have been going to like women's networking events and things like that, just so that they are a reason to get out and meet local people that I can go and have coffee with and things, having moved to a new area. So yeah, I think that is one of the biggest challenges, and I think it's something that people need to go into with open eyes when they think about running their own business or going self-employed, is that there is an element of, you're on your own. And a lot.
Yes.
So
you are. And how do you keep yourself motivated and inspired and keep going? So I realized actually the way to do that, I think it's really important to be really clear about why you're doing something. So it is back to that kind of passion and purpose. And if you've got that and you can regularly go back to it, and I did this last week actually. I had COVID last week. I've managed 2 years. I've managed to avoid it, and then I got it last week. But actually, and so I felt pretty rubbish. So I started lots of things, didn't get very much finished. But one of the things I did is I thought, hang on, I'm at one of those kind of points in my business where I'm learning new stuff again, and it feels a bit uncomfortable. And I could really easily just say, oh, Nick, what is it I'm trying to do? Let's just give up, just stop. It's just put it in the too hard box, put it in the, I gave it a go, but hey ho, never mind. Let's just go and get a job again. And I thought, no, I'm not giving up. I am not going to do this. And I pulled out the vision again, and I just looked at, what is it I'm trying to achieve? What am I doing? And it's as much about, yes, wanting to create something myself, leave a bit of a legacy. But the other purpose in me is knowing how much change programs fail and wanting to help businesses to do it in a different way. And that just really got me energized and excited again, even when I was feeling ill last week, just to go, hey, just keep going. And I think, I'd really kind of encourage anyone really, if the change for them is about embarking on a business, obviously everyone has lots of different types of changes, but if that's a particular change, then really being clear on your why and what you're really passionate about, and keep that front and center. I mean, I've got it up as a poster on the wall just in front of me, so I'm seeing it every day to just remind me and to keep myself going, because there's it's a different type of stress, I think, when you move from the corporate world into setting up your own business. The pace of work, I think, is very different. Certainly if you compare it to something like a PwC, where it's like just go all the time. There is a lot of time, where it's spent sort of navigating and trying to work out what is it I'm doing? How does this work? I'm not really sure. And just, being able to kind of come back to, this is why, is just critical.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so true for starting up your own business, having that why, knowing what your business is all about. But it's also important for that step before, when you're thinking, this isn't the right space for me anymore, I want something different. It's like, okay, why? What is it that is causing that thought, you really got to like think about what it is and why it is you want that change, to help you then determine, well, what's that next step? Is it going self-employed? Is it starting your own business? Is it just finding another job or reskilling at something? But it's just, yeah, understanding the nuts and bolts in your brain as to why you need that change. Where's it coming from? Okay, I mean, this has been, yeah, a really awesome conversation. I hope people find this, really inspiring. Particularly, I guess I'm a bit biased because, like you, I've come from a very corporate background, and I'm really inspired by people who can step away from it and have a go at doing something really different for themselves. Let's sort of round this up with what would you say to other women out there who are seeking this change? And you've just talked about the why being really important. Is there anything else that encourage them?
So what would I do seeking change? I've got three tips, I think. Cool. 3 tips. First is be brave and go for it. You've literally, like, we've only got one shot at life. Just don't sit there and just think, oh, maybe not, maybe I'm not brave enough. Just go for it. There's never, one of the pieces of advice that I've read is, you're never going to feel ready.
Yeah.
And I didn't. I remember when I started my own business, all in change management. I've spent 20 years doing change management, and I all of a sudden had this kind of real feeling of, but I don't know what I'm doing. Like, what do I know about change? I actually had to write. So I'm quite a big, it was crazy. I'm quite a big advocate for like affirmations. So I did some post-it notes at the time when I was starting out in my business. I just thought, I need to give myself some positive self-talk here. So I wrote post-it notes and I put them all over the mirror. And one post-it note I had said, I am a change management expert.
Yeah.
I just needed to remind myself of that. So go for it. You literally have one shot. Just do it. And then linked to that, I think I personally don't believe in having regrets. And at the same time, I can see that if I was ever going to regret something, it would be that it's because there's something I haven't done, because I've let fear hold me back. And so I'd say people regret the things they don't do and not the things that they do. So think about, when you're sitting down, 70, 80, 90 years old, and you're looking back over your life, what's that thing that if you sat there and thought, oh, if only I'd been brave enough, like, what would it be? And if it's that career change, if it's setting up your own business, if it's moving into a different role, for goodness sake, do it. And then the third thing is I've really come to grips with the fact that there's no such thing as failure. So everyone talks about, a big fear being about failure, but there isn't failure when you're trying something new. And I keep having to remind myself of this. I haven't done it before, so it's not going to work it might work right first time, but invariably it's not going to. So it's not about failure. There's only learning. So always, as long as you're progressing and learning and developing and getting excited, we're motivated. I read a brilliant book called Drive by Dan Pink, and it talks about motivation. And in the 20th century, obviously, business is all about carrot and stick, but actually as human beings, we're so much more than that. And so his book is all about, actually, people are motivated by purpose, mastery, and autonomy. So the purpose that they're contributing to something greater than themselves, mastery that you're honing and developing new skills, and autonomy to control your own, kind of destination and what you're doing every day. And I really believe that, actually, if you are doing those 3 things, so in developing mastery, that's what I realize is if it doesn't work, that's okay, because then I'm going to try again, and then I'm just going to get better and better and better at it. So yeah, a real kind of, there's no failure, only learning.
Yeah.
And my final one, I do have one more,
is
if a little bonus one is, because you're absolutely right, actually, there is that period, isn't there, before you make the change of trying to work out what is it you want to check, like what is the change you're going to make. So you know that where you are right now isn't right, but you don't know what comes next. And yeah, you know, I said earlier that I was at PwC for much longer than maybe I should have been, because I didn't know what that next step was. And there's this brilliant concept called Ikigai.
Ikigai.
Ikigai, yeah.
Ikigai.
So,
yeah.
Ikigai,
Japanese.
and that is a Japanese concept, and it means, you know, your reason for being. So, and there's 4 components, and I'm going to just read these because I don't always remember them all. But 4 components of Ikigai, and that's IKIGAI, for anyone that's thinking, what was that word? How do you say it?
We can share it. We can share it in the comments.
Yeah, that would be cool. Is and it's like a Venn diagram, right? And there's 4 parts to it. So it's what you love. So it's got to be something that you're going to enjoy doing, that you're going to, in those low moments. We've talked about that kind of loneliness that you get when you're kind of working on your own. Something that's going to get you out of bed every day and going to keep you going. So work it out what it is you love and what is it you're good at. And then what you can get paid for or rewarded for. And then linked to that is what the world needs. Because actually, if the world needs it, they're going to pay you for it. So you have to find something, unless you want to set up a charity and you don't need the money. We all actually need to earn a living to be able to have pay bills and also have a lifestyle that we really like. So you've got to get paid for it. So it has to be something the world needs. But if you're really going to be driven and love what you do, or find something that's really right for you, you've got to love it. And you've got to be good at it. So if you kind of put those 4 things together, and it's where they all overlap, that bit in the middle, that's what you should be doing. So that would be my final tip. If you really don't know kind of what's next, then have a go at kind of answering those 4 questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Nicky. I will definitely share the Ikigai diagram, Venn diagram, or links to. It is interesting. I've had a good look at that myself, and I've been in that place of like what I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, excellent tips. Thank you very much, and thank you for being my first guest. It's been awesome, very exciting.
You're very welcome.
So hopefully this is the first of many, and so yeah, it's been lovely to meet you, and thank you for sharing your experience, and I will keep you posted on when this will come out.
You're very welcome. I've loved it entirely. Thank you.
You're welcome. Right, I'm going to stop the recording now.